What is up YouTube, and welcome back to the RiftGuides WildRift video. I'm Kirks, and here we have a new champion release with a Maokai. In this video we'll talk about abilities, different builds, what roles you can go into, and everything you need to know to finally play this champion to the best possible level. So let's start with the ability rundown. First off, we have his passive ability called Sap Magic. For that one, let me quickly reset my level. Every 24 seconds, Maokai's next attack restores 129 health, scaling with bonus health. Using an ability or being hit by an enemy's champion's ability reduces this cooldown by 3 seconds. So what does this specifically mean? As you level up, you see the cooldown goes down, as well as the healing goes up. The next thing is you auto attack here, but you do not see a cooldown on your passive. I assume you would maybe see a cooldown of your passive if you, let me quickly do the limit test here in the mid lane. Just flashing forward. So you do not see the passive cooldown of your ability. Very important to mention. Okay, Bramble Smash. Maokai smashes his fist into the ground, unleashing a shockwave that deals magic damage equal to 70 plus 3% of the target's maximum health and slows them briefly for 0.25 seconds. Nearby enemies are also knocked back. Deals 120 bonus damage to monsters. The cooldown of this ability goes down as you level it up, the base damage goes up by 60 per point investment, and the bonus health scaling or the target's max HP scaling also goes up by 1% per point investment. So far, this ability looks pretty much cracked, so let's take a good look. That is the max range ability, and that is the close range ability. You see, you have a CC effect. This CC effect can be very important later on if we talk about some other items that are very good for this champion. But now let's continue with our abilities. Twisted Advance transforms into a moving mass of roots, becoming untargetable and dashing to an enemy champion target. Upon arrival, he roots them for 0.8 seconds and deals 60 magic damage, and it deals 180% damage to monsters. As a base cooldown that increases over time as you put points into it, the base damage goes up by 35 per level, and the root duration goes up by 0.2 seconds per point investment. So how does this look like? Another thing you have to keep in mind, look at the position of your champion as you use your second ability. You are slightly behind them, which means you can technically insect them. You see? You go behind them, and you just knock them back. And you can always autocast all of this. It's all autocast. Okay, the next ability we'll talk about. Sapling Toss. Flings a sapling which stands watch. Flings a sapling which stands watch at where it lands for 20 seconds. Saplings chase nearby enemies, detonating on arrival to deal magic damage, with an AP scaling and a bonus health scaling, and slow nearby enemies by 30% for 2 seconds. If placed in a bush, saplings stand watch for 40 seconds and cause a larger explosion upon catching up to enemies, dealing 200% magic damage and slowing enemies hit by an increased amount. It scales with bonus health and bonus AP. For 3 seconds, saplings deal 130% damage to minions regardless of whether they are placed in a brush or not. Saplings deal a maximum damage of 300 to monsters. So let's take a quick look what it means. Look how it's gonna chase down the scuttle. And contrary to this, we have the small one. Look at it. So cute. So you see? And these ones will basically be used as wards. You see? You just place them anywhere where you expect people to walk through. And depending on your itemization, they'll take a lot of damage trying to just move around, right? So that's something you have to really keep in mind, because it really makes a massive difference in the sense of damage. Because if the enemy tries to just move around the map, they'll take so much extra damage. But now, let's talk about the ultimate ability, Nature's Grasp. Summons a slow-moving colossal wave of brambles, dealing 175 magic damage, plus AP scaling and rooting enemies hit for 0.8 seconds. Root duration increases with distance traveled by the Brambles. Hitting an enemy champion with this ability grants Maokai 40% movement speed, which decays over 2 seconds. Hitting a new target refreshes this duration. As you level up this ability, you will gain cooldown, you'll get base damage, and you'll get movement speed. So let's take a good look. Look at this, by the way. Look at this. Isn't that insane? You cover the entire area, so if there's a fight happening here, you will always see everything. You'll hit everything. And there's one little secret about this. So let's say we have a few friends here, right? Let's showcase you what happens if you hit champions with this. The Brambles stop the moment they hit something. So if you manage to actually get a good hit through them, they'll only get rooted by one Bramble, which means that the people, like a tank, needs to block this ability so the allies behind it do not get hit. If they however get hit, they're all rooted, and then the Maokai chase down happens. Like, you walk in with your ultimate, you become super increasing, like you're super fast, then you go in, and then you hit them. And they're simply dead. Are there a few things that we need to talk about when it comes to general skills of Maokai? Well, your most common combo is going to be Flash W, Q backwards. That's the thing you're going to do the most of the time. Alternatively, you can also do this. You flash behind somebody and just use your first ability. Typical stuff. And other than this, you don't really have any flash combo. You can't ult flash. It will just still come from the same spot where you, like, look, you channel it here, but you flash, but it still comes from behind. The only thing you can do with this is basically hide that you casted ult. But again, it doesn't really make any difference. So your most common combo is going to be Flash W and then just Q around. You can even, like, you have enough time to walk around and then knock somebody back. What is the next thing we're going to talk about? We talk about items, okay? I will showcase two different builds, which I believe are going to be played. One is a more support AP build, and the other one is a full damage, full tank Giga build. Okay. You will see the builds where they're like quickly summarized as to what I'm going for. But let's start with Boots of Mana on Maokai. Okay, first off, what do we max and what do we go for? We should try to max our first ability because it's the highest damage we can get if we are getting consistent damage, okay? If we are getting consistent damage, that is. Also, cooldown goes down, but this primarily applies to the tank Maokai. For the AP Maokai, you can make an argument that unless you can go inconsistently, maxing your third ability first is going to net you more advantages. And I'll show you why. Let me flash down there again, since we still cannot teleport around the map, as per usual. So Maokai will feature one great thing, and it is this brush control here. Nobody can really face check these because it's too much of a risk. Because the moment you do, you take so much damage. And that basically removes an entire way for the enemy to play the game, because, I'll use the wards to showcase you, they can't walk anywhere here. They have to stay on this side, or leash away these saplings and make them explode manually. But other than this, they are forced to play a specific side of the lane and have to yield brush control, which can be very, very beneficial. Because if you think about how much damage these saplings do if you run saplings, meteor, scorch, and cheap shot, it's going to be a lot of damage. Because just the runes alone will quite literally double the damage of your sapling in the early game. So what comes next? What do we max after? As an AP Maokai, we can debate going for an extended route, which, does it really make sense as an AP Maokai? Do you not just want to primarily play around your Sapling Toss, which isn't affected by cooldown reduction, which doesn't gain any cooldown reduction from leveling it up? Or would you rather prefer your first ability with super high base damage, max HP scaling, and obviously massive AP scaling as well? So I personally think we will simply go for the Bramble Smash. It provides us with more damage, more wave clear capabilities, helping our team out. But alternatively, putting points into your Twisted Advance gives you more opportunities to go for one-shot plays, right? You just go in, just bash that guy, and they're most of the time just dead. So for the AP Maokai, it really depends on how you believe the game is gonna go. Third ability max if you want zone control with maximum damage. If you want more lockdown, you go for the Twisted Advance. And if you want the most damage possible in a short period of time, you'll go for Bramble Smash. Now, what items do we go for? What do I believe are very good choices for AP Maokai? We'll go with the cookie cutter start of Luden's Echo. Let me quickly charge it up for a second here. Luden's Echo here. Let's walk it here. Luden's procs, Comet procs, Scorch procs, Cheap Shots procs. I don't have Cheap Shot in my runes right. I do have Cheap Shot in my runes here. But yeah. You see, it's quite a lot of extra damage simply from runes. It's insane. And then we can argue, okay, what's our next item? Like, this is already a lot of poke, similar to like a Misfortune support. Then we can utilize another tool which makes our saplings even more powerful. Like you see, if I throw the sapling, it deals damage over a period of time. This damage over time can be very beneficial for me. However, you see 4 seconds here, but there's a difference when it comes to the empowered sapling, if I'm not mistaken. Because for some reason, the extension happens for 3 seconds now. So if we have an enemy dummy, so unless I'm mistaken, it should show 5 seconds of damage taken. Compared to the 4 seconds of before. So here we have 5 seconds of damage taken, which means 5 seconds of consecutive Liandry burn. Which is something that's definitely not little, given the AP you already have on these items. You have 215 AP, Liandry scales with bonus AP, so it's not going to be too little damage if you're facing tankier compositions. If you're facing less tankier compositions, you can actually think about an earlier Horizon Focus. What does Horizon Focus do for you? Horizon Focus is quite the cool thing to have, because it actually tells you a few secrets. So I wonder how this one interacts. You can vision here. You pop this and you gain complete vision around the area. So you can actually utilize Maokai saplings as double vision control, because the moment it explodes, it grants the Hypershot passive. So let's just place even more of these dummies around here to see how much info we're actually getting of people hiding in the wings, for example. So pay close attention. I need one more here. So pay close attention to me popping this thing here and then looking at the minimap. You see all of these here hiding for a brief moment, which makes this item very, very powerful on Maokai support. So what is the next item afterwards? Obviously, since we have decent AP scalings, we want Rabadon's Death Cap. Like, every mage wants Rabadon's Death Cap. You really, really need Rabadon's Death Cap. Since the second ability, like third ability, quite doubles in the AP scaling once you hit them from a brush, having a 50% AP scaling is really not that bad, and especially scales also our Liandry damage since it scales with AP. So we have 458 AP right now. Now, what comes next? You can pretty much think about multiple options you have available. Number one, you have Crown. Crown is the most defensive option you have, especially since you're supposed to go in. It can really make the difference. Alternatively, if you're not forced to buy anti-shielding or anything, you can now go for Horizon Focus. And for your last item, you can choose between going for Infinity Orb or for the Awakened Soul Stealer. Your champion, from my understanding of its design, will almost always get a or multiple kills thanks to the ultimate. Keep in mind how wide this is, how easy of a setup this is, and how you can just press your second ability and lock somebody down. And it's pretty easy to get assists on Maokai, and therefore have more ultimates available, more saplings, more roots, more ultimates. And your ultimate seems like a very big power tool. If you don't think that is necessary, you can obviously also go for the Infinity Orb. Definitely not a bad pickup. But what about another choice you can go for? Imperial Mandate. If you do not like Ludens as a first item on Maokai support, you can actually debate going Mandate, which is a lot cheaper. The downside of Mandate compared to Ludens, it's a lot less damage if you're alone. If you are going for an all-in, however, it's going to be so much more. Because if you just have like this selection of targets here, and you just cast your ultimate, and they all get the Mandate proc on them, which means they take up to 94 to 150 extra damage and grants both movement speed, that is quite the massive difference. And given it's a lot cheaper, you have it earlier with an earlier power spike. But keep in mind, it's still a lot less damage than Ludens itself is, and it doesn't feature mana. Now, for the enchantments as AP Maokai, you will, most of the time, you're forced to buy Stasis. You're forced to buy Stasis, and if you do not buy Stasis, you can actually buy Meteor. Because look, I pop out my ult, I pop the Meteor, and I can guarantee all of this. Because it's so difficult for the enemy to avoid this. It's similar to Camille. So yeah, that is very, very, very powerful. Now let's move over to the tank build. Okay. As a tank build, you will run Grasp of the Undying. You can also debate going Glacial as a support, if you want to go full tank support, also works. You go Grasp of the Undying. In your first tree, you'll be picking up Courage of the Colossus, Second Wind, and then you just choose between Perseverance and Overgrowth. For your second tree, you can make the decision and go for example, Transcendence. You can go for Giant Slayer. All of these choices are very valid, depending on what you actually need to get. But now let's talk about your starting items and what you actually go for. Okay, you will start out with a Ruby Crystal. Your Ruby Crystal will allow you to either go for Plated Steel Caps or for Merc Treads. These are the best first items you can get on this champion, and most likely on every Baron laner there is. Now, let's say we have a game in which we need magic resistance. In this instance, we will go for still Heartsteel because it's the best item in the game. It's absolutely unbalanced with how many stacks you get for free, and given your champion's identity and nature, you'll be up close very often. So you get a lot of stacks, plus it provides haste and health regen, which plays into this synergy again with Second Wind on top. Now for your second item, if you play into full AP, you can go for Abyssal Mask. Now what does Abyssal Mask do? When you receive magic damage, gain 20% of the pre-mitigated magic damage as a charge for 5 seconds. When you immobilize an enemy champion, consume a charge to explode a small area near the first immobilized target, dealing magic damage equal to the charge consumed. So what does this actually mean? You know, this is immobilize. This is immobilize. And this as well. So you have 3 tools of immobilizing people, of which one is a super low cooldown and the other one is a mediocre higher cooldown. So you can reliably proc this, but also you have this component and this passive. You actually do not have mana issues anymore with this item. They are completely gone. Completely and entirely gone. But now, what do we do after? What do we actually need to have, and how can we full build our champion to really reach the peak performance? So, I think personally there's a massive issue in WildRift, which is Titanic Hydra as well as Heartsteel. Because now, look at my HP, I have 4000 HP, very reliably achievable. I have 119 AD, I buy this item and suddenly I have 187 AD, and not only this, you will see that every second auto attack, like look, every second auto attack, my Titanic Hydra will proc. which means every second auto attack I will deal bonus damage of an insane amount for absolutely free and hit the targets behind if they're clumped up for even more damage, while also gaining so much AD. Because look again, 189, and now I have 119. So this item alone grants me so much more damage, it is absolutely obscene. However, you might not need this item because there are other items you need more, and there's other ways for you to gain damage, which for example is going to be Sunfire given your high scalings, or you want to invest into a more defensive option, which is going to be Dawnshroud. Again, think about all the tools you have to immobilize things. Let's talk about Dawnshroud again. If you are within 400 units of an enemy champion and you immobilize a champion or are immobilized, reveal all nearby enemy champions for 3 seconds and deal 80 plus 5% of your bonus HP as magic damage and heal yourself for the same amount over 4 seconds with a 3-second cooldown. So you see, look at the buff bar down there. I got a proc. I got a proc. And I got a proc. So I have 3 tools again to reliably proc this and have it off cooldown all the time. It is up all the time. I barely have any downtime of this item, making myself even tankier, especially if you think about this Sap Magic passive. Every 17 seconds, Maokai's next attack restores health, and using an ability or being hit by an ability reduces the cooldown by another 3 seconds. And keep in mind, you just go in, you go for a full combo here. That is 9 seconds down if it's instantly cast, while you're also receiving ability damage and abilities into your face, which means that this ability will constantly be reset and you'll get healing and healing and healing. Which then in return makes it very difficult for the enemy to achieve anything into you. Now, what other item can we actually go for on this champion and what do we truly need? That is very much open for your own choices. You can have more damage with Sunfire. You can have more control with Iceborne Gauntlet. You can have a lot of attack speed slow with Frozen Heart. You definitely go Thornmail if the enemy team has any auto attackers, because the health scaling you have, given the HP you gain, turns into a lot of extra damage from this item for absolutely free, while you constantly sustain yourself over fights. Now, if there's an item that's also pretty cool into physical damage compositions, like you see this item, oh, that's pretty cool to get. But this item here, if the enemy is full AD, is even more powerful. The Fiery Touch passive, which basically deals 1.4% of the attacker's maximum HP as magic damage per second, while granting you armor and health. This is the Lianris version for your champion if you do not build into any AP, because it grants you the highest damage possible with the lowest investment. But keep in mind, most of the items for Maokai outside of the first item are completely flexible and I think dependent on the game state of the game, and as long as you have defensive boots as your starter, as well as Heartsteel as your first item, you can itemize into many different things and get very positive results. And one item you should never forget on tank champions is Mantle of the 12th Hour. It's probably the most underrated and underbought item in the game. Compared to this, you see Amaranth Twin Guard all the time. Also a very broken item, do not get me wrong. This item is very, very good, especially if you're facing a lot of CC as well as Hydra damage. But what does Mantle do? It has 200 health, 40 armor, 40 magic resist, and the lifeline passive. Damage that puts you under 35%, grants bonus max health equal to 200 plus 50% of your bonus health for 3 seconds, and provides 50% slow resist and 30 movement speed for 3 seconds. So let's keep that in mind. Let's take a look. 50% bonus health. That is 700. There's another 572. We were at like 1272. 1572. Now we're like 1800, 820 something something, and now we're like 2k plus, and now we're like let's just say 2.2k plus. 2.2k grants you bonus health to 50% of your bonus health, max health equal to 50% of your bonus health. So you gained 200 plus more than 1100. That is a 1300 heal, which is not reducible by anti-healing since you're gaining max health. 1300. that is half the HP bar of an AD carry, which you just simply gain for free. As for the enchantments for tank Maokai, Gargoyle will be the best in-slot enchant, and I'll show you why. Like, you're close to one target, oh, that looks pretty cool in the sense of a shield, but now let me get closer to more targets. You see that shield? You are borderline invincible with that shield because it's just way too big. It is just way too massive, and the enemy can't burst you. And then since, well, you're still a champion that's crazy, because if you go close to an AD carry, you still beat them up brutally. And that is kind of it, outside of the max order for the tank Maokai. You want to max your first ability first, then you want to max your second ability, and then you want to max your third ability. You want the maximum root duration of your second ability and the lowest cooldown possible to keep them in place for as long as possible. You want the Bramble Smash as often as possible because it's a high damage tool as well as a nice CC tool. And this tool is just extra vision you gain for free, and any point investment doesn't make a difference simply because it doesn't lower the cooldown. And needless to say, you always want to max your ultimate first. As for the jungle, I think for the jungle, your best item in slot into physical damage composition is a rushed Searing Crown, similar to a Mumu. Outside of this, the build will pretty much be the same in the jungle department, and with that, we are at the end of this video. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and I try to get you a gameplay as well later and upload it as I can. As per usual, have a nice day, and we'll see each other for more RiftGuides content very soon. Bye bye.